I think it's just about time to get this started, guys. Roma host Verona, a very plucky, stubborn, tough, rejuvenated side in 2023. They're playing much better after flirting with relegation earlier in the season. Guys, I'm Wayne Gerard. We're going to be talking all about football, Serie A, and Roma against Verona today. Thanks for joining. Nice to see you as always. Throw in some likes, some comments, everything to keep this channel growing. Thank you. But let's get to the business. So the first thing, ironically, that I wanted to talk about today was actually Manchester United. Go figure. Yeah, but I'm watching what's going on with this potential ownership, with them acquiring a new owner, with the Glazers, who have been in charge of this team for, over 10 years at this point, and are, of course, an American team, and they've had their own American ownership, and they've had their own controversies throughout the year, very sometimes disconnected with the fan base, sometimes like right now, getting back on board with more of a friendly relationship between the fans and the ownership. But it looks like they are going to be selling, receiving bids right now, soft bids, soft closing date. And there's three people in contention, or should I say three entities. The first of those is Qatar's Sheikh Jassim bin Hamas Al Thani, and he is the chairman of Qatar's biggest bank and son of the former prime minister. He seems to be in the lead right now. The bids are expected to be about 4 to 6 billion euros. The second guy is Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who owns Nice, multi-billionaire, has his own investments. And now the question is, does this create a conflict of interest? Because you cannot have two teams in the Champions League. Well, I'm not sure if you actually get to choose which one you want to go to the Champions League, but I do know that after reading a report today in The Athletic, that the Premier League actually has the option to push a team out of the Premier League, depending on if they have interests with another club and if they deem that to be a subject or conflict of interest. The Great Glazers are holding out for $7 billion. I also see Elliott Investment Group, who used to own AC Milan before selling to Redbird, who seem to be interested as well. And why discuss this? Because Manchester United is arguably the biggest brand in all of sports. And when it comes to football, I can only think of two other teams, Barca and Real Madrid, who come close to the brand power that this has. Of course, if you go to any South American, Central American country outside, of course, barring Spain, and then you've got massive fan groups all throughout the continent of South America and Central America, and even into America, into North America, you have massive fan groups. But Manchester United has, I would argue, a more global appeal. Good to see Adnan checking in. How you doing, man? I see you. Yep. So we're just chatting about United right now. And with that, they also have a chance with Manchester City's win versus Arsenal in midweek. Perhaps even a little bit of a title challenge. And what does that mean for ownership at that point? But Qatar's Sheikh Jassim, he is a lifelong Manchester United fan, apparently, and even named his investment group or nonprofit, some type of fund that he has, 92, after the 1992 great class that Manchester United had. Other news, Giada Greghi, Roma Femminile player, she turns 23 today, and she'll be playing for the Azzurri tomorrow against England. And she's a midfielder who's been with the team since 2014, even in their transition where they went from Roma Res and became an entity of AS Roma. So for almost a decade at this point, Greghi has been part of the setup. Cheers to her. Big news today coming out of actually Belgrade, out of Serbia, is that Red Stars Ultras, who are some of the most militant in all of football, after stealing the banner, as we can see here, of the Dane, one of Roma's most notorious Ultras groups, have set it on fire today in Serbia. So this comes after the incidents a few weeks ago where the Roma and Napoli Ultras were fighting on the highway in between Roma and Napoli. Those fans, apparently over 200 Ultras, and they have a 2-month ban now for all visiting or away fans for Roma and Napoli. So those fans, tomorrow you will not hear Roma fans. If you were listening against Lecce, the one thing that I noticed was that no Roma fans. Okay, so the story goes that last week, Virtus Entella, a team from Rome, I believe, and Virtus Bologna were facing a team from Serbia. With that came about 40 Ultras members from Red Star as a team from Belgrade was playing in Rome, and 40 of these guys were there, and a few of them ambushed about 4 of the Fidane members and stole their banners and brought them back to Serbia. And this comes also on the heels of Roma having a bit of a Gemelagio type of friendship with, who is it? Dinamo Zagreb Ultras. And now we see even a Gemelagio happening because of that, this Gemelagio, this twinning going on between the Ultras of Red Star and those with Napoli. And even it's said that Napoli has their own Fidane group, that in Napoli's curva, you can even see a Red Star Belgrade flag going up. But back to what's going on here is if you look at your screen, you can see what on the bottom, the flag was today burned and disintegrated. Now, Fidane does have a banner that is 51 years old. I'm told on Twitter that this was not the 51-year-old historic banner. Nevertheless, this is their property. And I want to say it's going to be like this, Green Street Hooligans type movie where, they're going to brawl and get the banners back and it's going to play out like Hollywood. But here's the thing. From what I understand, Serbian ultras and particularly, countries of former Yugoslavia, these ultras have been super militarized in the past 15, 20 years, practicing MMA, getting into constant fights with police. So there's a little bit more to it rather than just typical ultras, pushing back against the cops, and maybe like where there used to be rules between these groups, like, if you drew blood, that was supposed to be it. And you could stab, but only in the butt, in the backside or in the back. Like you weren't supposed to really inflict damage. I wonder if on the streets, if those rules still apply today with these ultras groups coming over from like Red Star. However, this is surely not a case closed. I believe that this will continue, that this storyline will develop as time goes on. But you could also see the Fidane banner before being set on fire was also turned upside down. This major insult for these ultras groups. And yeah, some crazy stuff here. I'm checking out some of these comments. And yeah, keep them coming in. Thank you guys. And yeah, it's totally dramatic here. We've got some other news as well. As we look around the league, I'm going to put a banner up. We can see who's coming in and who's already played so far this round. This is match day 23 of Serie A. And we can see that Milan picks up the points against Monza. I was hoping Monza would put up a little bit more of a fight with Pessina. I was hoping he was going to have a big game. Doesn't look real, or doesn't look like that came to fruition at all. Sassuolo lost against 2 magnificent goals that Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia scored. I mean, that Osimhen goal, guys, up until yesterday, I would say the best goal of the season of all of Serie A was the one that Osimhen scored against Smalling. Now, the same player did it again from an almost impossible angle against a pretty decent Sassuolo side yesterday. And then Kvara dribbling from beyond the halfway line from his own side all the way into, and then just taking on like 3 or 4 defenders, pushing him onto his wrong side, finding the smallest margin of goal and converting that. He's an unbelievable player. What is Napoli going to get for him? 170 million at this point? Profound, really. You have to give it to them. They're the best team in the league, guys. On top of that, as we're looking elsewhere, we see Sampdoria lose again to Bologna. Sampdoria really awful this season. More of a Serie B side than anything. But Inter Udinese play tomorrow. That will be Sunday. Atalanta Lecce. I'm really looking forward to that matchup. So we are very familiar with Lecce at this point as Roma fans, or if you're not a fan, I will tell you that Lecce is a really tough side to play against. They have taken points from almost every big team, even drawing against this superpowered Napoli. They are strong in defense. They counterattack quickly. Gabriel Strefezza is one of my favorite players in the league. Small, dynamic, diminutive, is able to take on pretty much any player, creates from, I would say, anywhere along that attacking third to even inside the box. He's able to wiggle himself in these tight spaces. And Atalanta, meanwhile, have revolutionized their tactics with Gianpiero Gasparini playing more of a defensive setup, counterattacking as well. So not only am I intrigued to see who gets possession during this match, But how do these attacks line up? How are they going to be constructed? Now, Zappacosta, he's going to be getting the start. We know Zappacosta well from being a Roma player, and he scored a really great goal about a week ago as well. It slips my mind who that was against at this moment, but that was great to see him, and he's going to keep on playing as Hattebauer, I believe, has torn his ACL, and he'll be out for the remainder of the season. So Atalanta's going through a few players at this moment, but they've got Højlund, who is a super fast young forward. I think he's less than 22 years old. Is he 20? Højlund, Danish forward, and that's going to be quite the match, people. And then we see Fiorentina Empoli. I actually think Empoli is going to win that Tuscan derby. If I'm honest with you, I think they're the better side right now. Fiorentina, very lackluster throughout this season. Cabral is really begging for service. He's had to pull a few good goals, like the one he just did recently in the Europa League, out of a hat. But they have been just underwhelming. Aside from Amrabat, they just don't have like any really interesting type of players. Just not a lot going on there. Salernitana versus Lazio, Spezia versus Juventus, and Torino versus Cremonese. I will say that the other match which I find of interest here is actually Salernitana-Lazio. So Salernitana has struggled a little bit. They got Ochoa. He's let in a lot of goals since he's come over, the Mexican international keeper. But I wouldn't rule that team out. I think that they do have, like Vilhena, the center midfielder, they do have a little bit of quality there. And I'm hoping that they can show up against Lazio. That would be very helpful as Roma looks to continue grabbing the 4th spot. Keep the comments coming in, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Monza is a good team, Adnan says. Hopefully we'll win against them as well. But yeah, Monza has been top 5 most successful teams of 2023 in Serie A. I believe, aside from the top 4, it goes those teams being the most successful, along with Juventus. And I think Monza is 5th or 6th with most points accumulated in 2023. But then the 7th place team is actually Hellas Verona, who we're going to be playing now. So let's look at this game as we get to it. I'm just going to make sure I don't have any banners I want to throw up here. But yeah, let's look at the probable lineups as I take off this graphic for the Fidane banner. I'm thinking it's going to look like this. Rui Patricio, Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez, that rarely ever changes. Zalewski, Cristante, Matic, El Shaarawy. There are some not rumors, but sentiment that Bove could be getting the start, as Matic is really tired at this point. He's been running a lot on these 35-year-old legs. And Bove has done a good job so far. I think in the minutes that he's gotten, he hasn't done a bad job at all. He needs a little bit more time, though, and I think that he could integrate into becoming an important part of the second half of the season here. But I do think Matic gets the start. I don't know why, because honestly, I think that just Mourinho likes to stick to his guns, and if he has Matic at his disposal, he's going to play him even if he's tired. I think he takes a fatigued Matic over a fresh Bove, in my opinion. On top of that, we have got El Shaarawy, who I think definitely gets the start, and Pellegrini will not be there. I meant to edit this, and let me do that right now. So let's take that away. Pellegrini is not going to get the start, in my opinion. It will be, in fact, El Shaarawy who takes his place. There we go. And it's not going to be Dybala either, but you know who? Volpato is who I think is going to get this. So onto Volpato. Last time that these two teams faced, I'm getting this up. There we go. There we go. That's the one I'm trying to put up. Last time these two teams faced, Verona went up 1-0 at the Stadio Bentegodi early on. And then there's a red card from the Polish defender. And then after scoring, he gets kicked out of the game. And Roma have to fight back. They get a goal, but it's not until the 88th minute that they square things up, with Volpato getting, I think that hit was like around the top of the 18. It was a really good goal, as I remember. And I think he gets the start. Honestly, I want to put my money on that one. Pellegrini has played every single game so far this season, or at least it seems like that. He has absolutely looked tired. He's rusty. And I think it's time for him to take a seat on the bench right now, because he really needs it, not just for form, but also because he needs to be rejuvenated. The guy, you can't possibly put a player through every single game every 3 times per week. It's just not realistic, and that's how players get injured. And speaking of injuries, Dybala. Let's chat about Dybala right now. I'm going to bring this up. 16 appearances for Roma, 8 goals, and 6 assists. To say he's been influential would be an understatement. I'm going to get you the quote that Verona's manager actually said about him, Marco Zaffaroni. He took charge during the winter break, and last week, as they beat Salernitana, the match prior to that, as I mentioned, was against Lazio. And he actually said the following in his presser. Dybala, he said something along the lines of, I thought I had it right here. I may have accidentally replaced it. Sorry about that. He said something along the lines of Dybala is, so they can play with any type of player. They can score from any type of moment. You know what happened before as I was editing this? I accidentally stepped on my keyboard. I think it deleted it. But when he was saying that Roma can score from any player, they have all these decisive players within their roster. But I don't think that has been the case because Roma has struggled without Dybala. Look at this here, this banner. 0+ goal differential. Not for or against when Dybala is not playing. 2 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses. That's saying that 50% of the games that Roma plays without Dybala result in losses. That's not good. So when this manager tells me that Roma can score from a variety of different players, that seems to me like a tactic because through this point in time, yes, that could be true. And Roma could score. El Shaarawy has goals in him. Tammy has goals in him. But what we are is a team, statistically, that has been dependent on Dybala's influence. Now, let's look at Roma with Dybala. 10+ goal differential, over 2 points per match. So it's edging towards a win, statistically a win whenever he plays, when or starting or playing over 30 minutes. I'm going to take some comments right now. Thoughts on Cristante renewal. Cristante to me is a great 12th man. He is somebody who never is a problem in the locker room. He doesn't take risks, nor does he often make mistakes. One criticism that you could call out Cristante about is his positioning in a 2-man midfield, in someone who sits deeper and plays zone defensively. His other benefits are the long ball. At times, he can play a decent long ball. He can close up. He can add experience when a team is already up. Is he a game changer? Not often, but he's also not somebody who gets in the way. And I think what also is important here is that it keeps his value on him. If a team comes in and wants Cristante, a player with a renewal who's on now a 4-year contract is worth a lot more than a player who's heading towards the last year of theirs, where they're worth virtually nothing. So if we value at Cristante, let's agree, guys, somewhere around 10 million, then maybe even 8 to 12 million. So I figure about 10. Now, if he's on his last year of his contract, that dwindles. That might be around 3 to 4. So it's in Roma's interests to renew him as well. I don't think it's a problem. Now, if you're talking to me about who's in my starting 11, it's probably not Cristante. Not even with a full, I look at players like Kamada. I think of Bove, perhaps. I like players who can take risks, and I don't see Cristante as that. There's reasons why I'm not the coach, though. Now, Jose Mourinho approaches this, and he says, I want to play a more simple game. I want my offensive players to be the ones who are moving and shaking and bursting forward. I don't want my Cristante being that guy who takes risks. So that's where I see that comes from. Leo gives a great shout here. Wants to see Solbakken get minutes, and I totally agree. And I believe that we will. I'm hoping more than fringe minutes. I think we saw him come in around the 85th against Lecce. The kid needs a half hour. Get him in there, Mourinho. And I believe with Volpato getting the start, perhaps, that we could see a shakeup. El Shaarawy, he's also been playing a lot of minutes on those legs, as I think he's over 30 at this point. I'm going to fact check myself real quick. El Shaarawy, I think he's 30 years old exactly. And he is 30. Yes, correct. Yes, I win. Okay. But anyway, I'm hoping that Solbakken gets in there for more than just these fringe minutes. That is my desire. As well as Wijnaldum, Morin puts in here to enter the match a bit when the team is holding on the ball just a bit more. Yeah, Wijnaldum would be great if we can get more, just like Solbakken, more than just a few, 5-10 minutes. Let them play almost near a half at this point. Integrate them. I want to see that. And Adnan says, I really hope Volpato will get some minutes. He's a really good player, and I want him to get that experience for the biggest matches. Sure. And he will continue to grow. If he is allowed to get that experience and Roma can go a goal or two up, then I think that will release a lot of the pressure on these young players, whether it's Bove, Volpato, Tahirovic. And without such need to go and score and need to make a difference on the biggest of stages of Serie A, hopefully that will benefit them. Okay, I'm going to go through my little preview here a little bit more. One player I would really like you to keep an eye on is Cyril Ngonge. This guy right here, young player, Belgian. His father was international for the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and he has such a unique skill set. He looks like he has the body of a center forward, yet he can also play out on the wing. So he's very dangerous, lanky, is able to get a shot off out of a really tight corner, a player who can change the game. And he just joined Verona in January. I think it was like January 16th. So he hasn't been with them for too long. Yet there is a statistic I wrote down here. I just want to let me look for it in my file. There was a good one. He scored in both of his first two Serie A starts, and he could become only the second Verona player this century to find the net in each of his first three games. Now, Verona is not a team the way that Sassuolo is, where every season they sell a player for 40 million euros. They are a team every now and then they might be able to sell this type of player and benefit. But I think that my intuition just tells me that Cyril will be one of these big sales in the next year or two, and that he's going to be doing big things in Serie A. Like I said, he's got this unique player style, characteristic, skill set on him. And he scored against Lazio, so that automatically puts him up +2 in our books, right? We already give him a little extra credit on that. Extra credit. I can't step away from being a teacher, even when I'm not at work. It's unbelievable. Anyway, we spoke about Dybala. So 8 goals, 6 assists in just over 1,100 league minutes this season. And that's just over 1 goal and assist per 90 minutes played. And like I said, when Dybala plays, that's a +10 goal differential. When he doesn't, it's 0, neither losing or gaining any goals there. But 50% of the games he does not play in, Roma lose. And that's 2 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses, as we can see there on the banner right now. Yikes, man. El Shaarawy will most likely shift forward again to support Abraham up front. And then I'm going to put this here, and we can see that probable starting lineup. Zalewski should be on the left. Wijnaldum should get some minutes, and Eduardo Bove also in contention, although, like I said, I think that's going to be Matic. Anything I want to throw out here as well, neither of these teams like to concede. However, Verona have given up just 4 in the new year. Just 4 goals. So without Dybala, without Pellegrini, with Tammy Abraham, who had a tough midweek game against Red Bull Salzburg, there's a lot of things not in favor of Roma right now. So and that's when hopefully things shine, right? When all the hope is lost, hopefully somebody shows up. Hopefully that comes from an unexpected source. Will that be Volpato? Will that be Abraham who gets a goal? Will it be Belotti? I would like to see Belotti get a goal for himself. He's been working hard. He's been getting more minutes. His fitness is increasing. So these are a lot of hopes. But guys, this is the preview. And Roma will be facing surely a stubborn Verona side on Sunday at 2:45 p.m. New York City time. Put my banner up. There we go. On the bottom there. There we go. By the way, last week's draw against Lecce meant that Roma failed to win for the 4th time in the last 5 away games. However, it does get a little bit better here. Roma have won each of their last 3 at the Olimpico, with all 3 of those being clean sheets. Roma have also never lost against Verona at home. Out of 25 games, they have won 19 of those. So statistically and historically, signs point towards Roma. But as we look a little bit deeper and we see that Verona has been so stingy with letting goals in, there's more to it. And when you don't have Dybala, you don't have Pellegrini, and Abraham is rusty, well, we could see some conflicts of interest playing out here. Okay, going to jump back to some comments before we sign off, guys. If we are up early, it would be nice to see Llorente, the new Spanish center back who joined from La Liga. And you think Leo says, nice to see you, Leo. Says, I think Llorente will play as Smalling will be rested. I don't know about that. Mourinho, very unlikely to switch out his three, his Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez, MSI, as I'm just coining that now. So I don't think Llorente does, especially since he hasn't played a minute yet. It would be too much of a risk, and Mourinho is anything but a risk taker. So, guys, we'll talk tomorrow. I'll be on after the game, probably live from Roma Club New York is what I'm planning. And let's go. Forza Roma. Go get that win against Verona. Got a lot of ground to make up this March. Already dropped points against Lecce. Can't let it happen anymore. Let me know what your predictions are. Write them in the comments, and we'll chat then. Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow. Ciao.